Hey, I'm joined by Brodie's dad, Ian, and we're chatting about all things Brodie, his story, and the fundraising that Ian's done for us. So thank you so much, Ian, for joining us today.
No, no problem.
Okay, let's start right from the beginning. How did you feel when you first found out about Brodie's heart condition, and what do you remember about that day?
Oh, I think the biggest memory is kind of confusion. Being told minimal information that the sonographers found something with his heart that they don't think is right. Um, it was also actually Christmas Eve as well. Um, I think that the words the sonographer used was, "It looks like something is the wrong way round." Um, so yeah, you just go into a world of confusion and the unknown, and you don't really know what to expect. They referred us pretty quickly because I think scan was Christmas Eve, so it would have been 2018. We were at Great Ormond Street on the 27th of December, I think. Um, so it's relatively quick, bit of a whirlwind, and very much entering unknown.
How did you and Vanessa emotionally prepare for Brodie's arrival once you found out about Brodie's heart condition?
Do you know what? I don't think you can prepare. Um, Great Ormond Street had told us normal kind of delivery, um, and it was very much kind of, you just need to really wait and see. Obviously, I say Vanessa was being scanned. Crikey, I think every 3 weeks up until his birth, every 6 weeks up until his birth. Um, Everything was obviously, I think Vanessa actually went into labour normally. They'd gone in, she'd gone in to be induced, but actually she'd already gone into labour. But I don't think it's something you can actually prepare for because there's too many unanswered questions and too many what ifs.
Absolutely. So when Brodie was born, when he was 3 weeks old, Brodie went into heart failure. How did that feel for you as a dad?
Obviously, the way I see a dad being is that you're there to protect, not just your children, but also, your family. A dad's role is to look after people. Um, and Vanessa just knew something wasn't right. Um, so I think it was around about midnight. She actually ended up taking him up to our local hospital. Um, and all you think is what's going to happen. Um, and you can't do a thing about it. You just can't. Um, so you end up kind of fighting with, I suppose, your own mind. You end up fighting against negative thoughts because I think any human, nature is to always think the worst. Um, yeah, you just have no control over it, none of it. Obviously, it's something you don't want to happen, but we've been given a heads up. So yes, what if I cross a road and I could get knocked over? The what if is a genuine reality. Um, so yeah, it's you don't want it to happen, but you kind of half expect it. And then when Vanessa's then taking him to the hospital, you're kind of just sitting and waiting. Um, yeah, and then the rest is history, kind of, so to speak. Pretty being certain that something wasn't right, you're then being admitted. It's then transfers to Great Ormond Street, which initially didn't go down very well at all. Um, and then back to Lister, and then you then just waiting.
So fast forward to 2020, and that was the day of Brodie's big open heart surgery. What do you
Yeah,
remember about that day and the lead up to it?
COVID was still very much doing its rounds, and it was, I think, we were expecting only one of us to be allowed to be in. Um, Obviously, I just felt it was right that Brodie had his mum. You
Yeah.
know, for me, every child needs their mum more than they need their dad. Yes, he was 3 weeks old and he would have known no different. But I felt that I was the one that had to kind of wait on the outside if that was going to be the case. Luckily, Great Ormond Street had kind of called us the night before. We were in their accommodation already, ready for pre-op, and they just said we were both allowed in. So obviously, despite all the stress, the worry, we were actually a little bit elated that we could both be there.
Yeah, definitely.
Because I think if I'd have been on my own, I just wouldn't have been able to handle it. I think if memory serves me right, taking him down to theatre before they put the oxygen on and whatnot. Yeah, that day haunts me. Even now, I'm not comfortable with it still. You've got a 15-month-old in your arms that's then fighting, and you're having to restrain him for them to get the gas, to get the oxygen mask on him. So then you go from a fighting 15-month-old to then just this floppy little baby boy in your arms. As you can tell, sorry. So yeah, from my perspective, it's a day that will probably haunt me for the rest of my days. I know Vanessa doesn't really like talking about it, because then you're waiting hours and hours for, I suppose, for an update that is probably not going to come unless you're constantly on the phone. I think we walked around most of the sites of London, and he still wasn't back from theatre. All your worst fears as a parent come to mind, and it's generally always worst case scenario that you can think of. From we haven't heard anything, is everything all right? But you kind of try and flip it. Well, we haven't heard anything, so that must be okay. Yeah, it's a lot to take in. A lot goes on. And I suppose you just live in the moment, and that's really all you can do. You have to be there for each other, of course, and you just have to be prepared for the waiting game.
Yeah. What was it like when you received that phone call that Brodie was out of theatre?
Of course, it's a sense of relief that he's back. The surgery had been completed. Obviously, the first question I think we asked was, is he all right? I think that's probably the obvious one that springs to mind. And can we see him? But straight away, your heart rate goes through the roof, because it's, what are we going to walk into? What are we going to find? What are they going to say? So yeah, it's a phone call that carries a double-edged sword.
Yeah. So after 11 days in hospital, you finally got to take Brodie home. What did that moment feel like?
A comfort blanket been taken away, because you go through the whole discharge process. He was on some meds at the time, which I can't remember for the life of me what they were. And they kind of give you the bag of meds, say you're good to go, and off you go. Whereas we'd had, I suppose, obviously, intensive care nurses and the team. Then when you go into just the ward, they're kind of talking to you, doing everything for you, helping you understand everything. Even though he's your little boy, he's, you kind of class, and they're not fragile in any way, shape or form, but you kind of treat them like they are a little bit.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, we're home, great, but there's no buzzing, there's no beeping, there's no nurse. Yeah, so you do feel a little bit on edge, and whilst it's a massive relief to be home because he's moved in that direction to get home, you do feel a little bit insecure.
Okay, so being a heart dad must come with its own set of challenges. Can you tell us how you managed to keep going, especially in those really tough early days?
Obviously, the stigma and men around the whole mental health piece is still very much there. I would probably be right in saying that most dads probably keep themselves to themselves, um, and can become a little bit isolated. But I think where I've learned a few, I suppose, hard life experiences, I'm able to kind of share that. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's the best job in the world, but it's also the worst. Um, for me, I can't have an off switch where you think, everything's all right. Um, and again, my job to protect my children. You do sometimes think that you're failing, and that you're not doing the right job, and there's that element of guilt because you feel responsible that you've put them through everything, and I know Vanessa feels the same. Of course, in my opinion, I think it's worse for a mum. Um, but yeah, it's very, very difficult, but rewarding at the same time. Um, I think, as you probably know, sort of running has helped. Um, and that's just me and my kind of thing. Um, there's lots of other things for people to do. Then they can just try and maybe find their thing. It's a huge help. Um, but I think also trying to raise awareness, hence why we've got his little page set up, which, unfortunately people have to put up with me on there as well. But I think it's a good way of sharing probably what we do as a family, how he goes through, hopefully I can relate to, whether it just be dads, mums, grandparents, whatever. It's not easy, and there's nothing wrong to admit it's not easy. But certainly I think, the exercise and the running and trying to do a little bit of good in the world has worked. And I think you kind of very much just become in autopilot. You do what you have to do. It's not a choice. It's something that has been handed to you, and you just very much have to. You do what you think is right, what you think is best, and what's needed. And that's for mums as well as dads, of course.
Yeah, definitely. And how did you find support in terms of from your friends and family and the medical team?
The medical teams at Great Ormond Street, it's just incredible what they do and what they do for parents and what they do for children. Whether it's in the heart world or it's kind of become like a home from home. So even though you're anxious about follow-up appointments and things like that, you've got the best care there is. Um, they pretty much know Brodie inside out, for want of a better way of putting it. They're the ones with that expertise and that knowledge. To go in there, yes, of course, there's anxiety, but they know what they're talking about. They know how to help, and they've been great. I think the small charities like yourselves and the work that you do has really, really helped us as well, because there's information on there. All the work you're doing, trying to try and get every child sort of, a 10-minute test. There's and the training for sonographers, it's incredible, and it's helped us. Talking to people like yourselves and other members of the team, Gaynor and those, have been a huge help, because every now and again you find yourself in conversation with them where you might be having a moment, or they might be having a moment. Yeah, and obviously family do their thing, don't they? Although I think the only ones that are really going to ever understand are the ones that have been through it.
The heart
And
community.
yeah, and that's not being negative towards our friends and family in any way, shape, or form. We've had friends recognize how much stress we've been under when it was very, very early. And they did something. They booked a caravan for us for a weekend just for us to be able to get away. and a change of scenery. So, there's things like that you can't forget and you hold on to dearly, messages of goodwill and all that kind of things. And your friends are there for you. But sometimes, obviously if you've been through it, you get it, you understand it, and you don't just generally, even work colleagues may sometimes go, but he's all right. Yes, but because there's a very, very real what if. But yeah, of course, very, very grateful for every support we've had. I think charities like yourself is well underfunded, understated, underestimated. Um, and you have to do a lot of it yourselves as well. But it's important. Of course, it is.
Looking back on all you've been through, how do you think having Brodie changed you as a dad?
Me and Vanessa talk about it quite a lot, actually. And he's actually educated us, despite us being. I mean, Vanessa was referred to as geriatric in her pregnancy, and that was by that was obviously by medical teams. Obviously we're older, but I think he's made us better parents. He's educated us in terms of it's something you're already aware of, but you don't think of. He's got a condition that you can't see, and we all know it's very, very easy to judge what you can't see. So he's educated us in terms of that, and not being necessarily so blinkered. I think he has made us better parents. In terms of, I suppose, just the things we do, how we do that. Even with the older kids that we've got, we involve them as much as we possibly can. You give them as much as information as they can as well. So I wouldn't say it's probably changed, but it's certainly allowed us to probably be better versions of ourselves.
Yeah. So Brodie is now thriving and you're doing an amazing job supporting Brodie. What are you most excited about for his future?
Well, we're actually super excited. He's going to make it to 6 in 6 days' time.
Yeah, that's not long.
Nope. And obviously he's super excited about it. We tend to just go year by year. He's on 12 monthly appointments. So you kind of just hope he gets to that one, and then you go again. He's got all the normal stuff going on. Coming up to the end of year 1 at school, going into year 2. And it's simple things like that's taken for granted. And whereas we might celebrate stuff like that, people probably might look on that don't necessarily understand and think he's doing another year at school. But it's not just another year at school. We didn't know he was going to get into reception or year 1. So we're looking forward to him obviously going into year 2 in September. He's got me back into youth football again, so I've now started coaching football again. So he's now got a little team. Aggravating his brothers and sisters continually, putting them in their place. There's when you go through stuff you go through, you appreciate what you have a lot more. We're going to Florida in July, I suppose it's another thing he's taught us. We're not going to be here forever. Whatever money you've got, you can't take with you. So let's try and do what we can whilst we can. I think the biggest thing we have to look forward to is life at the minute. He's here, he's living. It's 6 years initially we probably didn't think we'd ever have. And that's the reality. That's not looking for pity. It's you genuinely think, how long will he be here? Will he even make it? You just appreciate life for what it is.
Yeah, it definitely changes your perspective.
Oh, 100%.
Earlier on, you touched on your running and your fundraising. What does that mean for you as a family, your fundraising for Tiny Tickers?
It's a way of giving back, and it's I think I posted on Instagram before that, it's not about medals or times or recognition. It's him, and it's the only thing I feel that I can do to give that little bit back. Um, so I think Chicago Marathon last year, we ended up, I think, raising just short of 5.5 grand. I think you'll probably know better than me. Um, we've done charity football matches, which is something we'd like to do again. Obviously we get the older kids involved as well. Vanessa's obviously involved, sort of, just sorting out stuff to sell, raffle tickets and all that kind of stuff. So it's probably something we'd like to do again. We'll be taking the Tiny Tickers t-shirt to Holland in October. So that'll be following me around for another marathon. I've booked Paris for next year as well. So Tiny Tickers again, we'll be going to another place in Europe. Yeah, it's, we chose Tiny Tickers again because it's self-funded, it's smaller. Great Ormond Street, of course, will always be at, I suppose, our number one in terms of what they've done for Brodie, the surgery, the appointments, the care, etc. But they get the funding with ease. And yes, they do what they do. They've got all that expertise within their realms as well. But Tiny Tickers being obviously specific for the heart and just trying to get babies tested when they're born and all that kind of good stuff. I think me and Vanessa just kind of decided we wanted to, let's see if we can push it for you even more.
Yeah, thank you.
And an idiot running marathons, what better way to do it?
Okay, and why do you think it's important to raise congenital heart disease awareness?
It gets nowhere near as much funding as some of the more prominent things. And don't get me wrong, I'm not taking it away from I'm not taking it from any way of the other conditions, the other diseases, but facts are it's underfunded. Fact is again that it's the biggest congenital defect killer of infants. And along with other things as well, it goes undetected, which is fairly common. And being thrust into that world, we were very, very lucky that it was picked up. The sonographer may not have even had that specific training that you guys are trying to roll out and deliver. We just got lucky. So it's crucial. It's crucial because the last thing any parent wants, and I can speak from experience on this one as well, no parent wants to say goodbye to their children. And whilst, even if it is detected, that outcome sadly might always or still be there, but at least it gives kids a bit of a chance.
Lastly, what advice would you have for any heart dads that are about to start their journey?
Crikey. Be prepared to enter the unknown. It is a roller coaster. It will cause tension in the household. But you have to just roll with it, and you go small steps day by day. Don't be frightened to share emotions. Don't be frightened to go and talk to someone. If you're not happy to talk to the missus or the partner or family, then find someone neutral. But also, it's the most rewarding job in the world, and embrace it.
Well, thank you so much, Ian, for speaking with us today about Brodie's incredible journey.
Thank you, and hopefully I've spoke a bit of sense and people can get where I'm coming from. So, I do appreciate you taking the time out to do this.
Absolutely. And you as well. Thank you, Ian.
Thanks again.